Hello, hi, mabuhay everyone!
My name is Adrian JP Panganiban,
And I am Riz Angela Muhor.
and welcome to our
Video record presentation. So, ano bang tatalakayin natin ngayon, partner?
Yes, partner. This day, we will discuss about the fiscal policy from 1946 to our present. Dito, tatalakayin natin kung ano bang fiscal policy. At natalakayin natin kung saan nagmula ang fiscal policy at kung kailan nagsimula ang fiscal policy. And from the time of Manuel Rojas, kung kailan natapos yung World War II and until to our present.
So, ano nga ba ang fiscal policy at gaano ito kaimportante sa ating bansa?
But first of all, what is fiscal policy? Fiscal policy is the government's use of taxation and spending to influence the economy. And there are two types of fiscal policy: the expansionary fiscal policy and contractionary fiscal policy. Expansionary fiscal policy, it helps to increase the economy and intended to boost growth to a healthy and economic level. And contractionary fiscal policy, it helps to slow the economic and reduction in government spending. And now, let's proceed to our main topic, the fiscal policy from 1946 to our present. The impact of war in the Philippines economy was very effectively disparate and hopeless, especially in the capital of the Philippines, which is the Manila, and we know that Manila is literally destroyed. The United States might declare the Philippines as independent, but the Philippines needs a funds for the United States for rehabilitation of the country. In 1949, the situation of economic is very problematic because there is a lack of funds in military and educational sector. And there is no effort that made to improve the tax collection. And also, the United States advised the adoption of direct taxation. But the administration of President Manuel Rojas declined the offer because he don't want to alienate its allies in Congress. We know that in the time of Manuel Rojas, doon natapos yung World War II. Then alam naman natin na yung World War II is grabe yung epekto niya sa ating bansa. Especially sa economic natin, sa ekonomiya ng ating bansa. Dahil sa World War II, walang-wala tayo. Bagsak na bagsak ang Pilipinas. Especially sa Manila. We know na dahil ang Manila is literally destroyed. Sirang-sira ang Manila. Dahil doon talaga naganap yung intense na labanan. Then, the United States declared the Philippines as independent, di ba? Kasi bago lang, di ba, na nakuha na natin yung bansa natin sa Japanese. Then, the United States declared the Philippines as independent. Pero, hindi natin kaya maging independent. Kasi we still need the help of the United States. Saan bante? Ay, saan na parte? Sa pera. Need natin ng pera sa United States for the rehabilitation ng country. Kasi we know naman, di ba, na sirang-sira yung ating bansa. That's why, then wala tayong pera that time. That's why we still need the help of United States. Then in 1949, the situation of economic is very problematic because wala tayong funds for military and wala rin tayong funds for educational sector. And also during the time of Manuel Rojas, walang effort na ginawa to improve the tax collection. As in, wala talaga silang ginawa. Hindi sa ano pa is hindi nila pinantuunan ng pansin yung tax collection. And also that time, the United States advised the adoption of direct taxation. Ano ba yung direct taxation? It is a tax that a person or organization pays directly to the entity that imposed it. After that, nag-advise yung United States na mag-adapt tayo ng direct taxation. Pero yung administration of President Manuel Rojas, gidecline niya yung offer. As in, gidecline niya. Bakit? Kasi ayaw niyang makaaway ang mga kakampi niya sa Congress, or he don't want to alienate its allies in Congress. That's why gitanggihan niya yung pag-adapt ng direct taxation from USA. Alam nyo ba na merong lugar sa Pilipinas during World War II na kung saan is magiging safe ka? Meaning to say, mababa lang yung syansa na pupuntahan ka ng mga colonizer, which is the Japanese. Bagamat nakakapekto yung digmaan sa Pilipinas, may mga lugar tulad ng Manila na mas napinsala kaysa sa iba. Ibig sabihin, iba-iba yung naging karanasan ng tao depende sa location mo. Kung ang location mo ay sa Manila, sa mga cities, Davao, or sa cities ng Cebu, is malaki talaga yung tsansa na ma-experience mo yung hagupit ng gera. Pero kung ang location mo naman is sa bulubundukin, sa liblib na lugar tulad ng bundok ng Dalagete, sa ibang part ng Cebu, yung sa mga liblib part ng Cebu, at ilang bahagi ng jungle sa Palawan, is mababa lang talaga yung chance na ma-experience mo yung hagupit ng war. Kasi masyado ng liblib yung lugar mo. Hindi ka na masyado napupuntahan ng mga Japanese. During the time of Elpidio Quirino, the moving force for economic growth is calm. It is true by implementing the import and exchange controls that lead to import and substitutional development. The policy allowed to expansion of a viable manufacturing sector that reduce economic dependence on imports. The new taxes measures also passed, which includes higher corporate tax rates that increase government revenue. The revenue in 1953 is increased twofold compared to 1948, and it is 2 years when Aquino first assumes presidency. During the time of Elpidio Quirino naman, umunlad ang ating bansa, umunlad ang ating ekonomiya. Dahil ito sa import and exchange control. Ano yung import and exchange control? Import and exchange control, ito na yung pag-import ng product mula sa Pilipinas sa ibang bansa kapalit ng foreign money. Sa halip na umasa sa ibang bansa, sinumulan nating gawin ang mga produkto dito sa Pilipinas. At dahil dito, lumago ang mga pabrika at hindi na tayo gaanong umasa sa mga produkto mula sa ibang bansa. Nagpasa rin ng bagong batas that time during sa panahon ni Elpidio Quirino. Nagpasa sila ng bagong batas sa buwis kung saan mas mataas ang binabayarang buwis ng mga kumpanya, which is importante din yan dahil dapat malaki talaga yung binabayaran ng buwis ng mga kumpanya. Dapat malalaki ang binabayaran na buwis ng mga kumpanya. At dahil dito, tumaas ang kita ng gobyerno. Then, halimbawa na lang yun noong 1953. Doble ang kinita ng buwis kumpara noong 1948, noong unang maging presidente si Quirino. During the time of Quirino, based naman dito sa libro, is makikita natin na may umunlad din tayo sa ekonomiya. Hindi yung kay President Manuel Rojas, di ba? Mula talagang effort na ginawa para lang naman sana na para lang sa collection ng tax, para lang sana na umunlad kahit papaano yung ekonomiya natin. Pero wala siyang ginawa that time. Pero nung naupo na si Elpidio Quirino, may nagawa siya, which is yung import and exchange control. Yun yung isang maganda niyang nagawa sa ekonomiya ng ating bansa. During the time of Magsaysay, Garcia, and Macapagal, they said they would study the country's tax structure and policy through the creation of Tax Commission in 1959 by means of Republic Act No. 2211 to make it more better. They even created a group called the Tax Commission in 1959 to help with this. But the tax after the war isn't fair. It puts a lot of burden to the poor, while the rich people who own the land and businesses made sure they didn't have to pay much in taxes. They did this because they were in the Congress. So, they could make the tax laws benefits themselves. After the war, there was corruption in the Philippines. There is more corruption in the Philippines from 1959 to 1968. Even though the economy changed a lot, the government didn't make any tax laws. Yes, Yes, they didn't make any tax laws. The rich Filipino businesses, people in Congress often block any new laws, any new taxes laws, like the taxes on imports, because they didn't want to pay them. The rich people don't want to pay taxes. Most of the tax money came from indirect taxes. And the big tax law in 1969 didn't really fix the problem. It didn't make the rich pay more income tax compared to the total tax collection. The government wasn't really good at collecting taxes. The tax structure is still problematic. And a lot of government money was lost because of the corruption. And because of these problems, the government didn't have enough money to pay the projects that would help the countries grow and improve. During the time naman nila Magsaysay, Garcia at Macapagal, nangako sila na pag-aaralan daw nila yung sistema ng buwis sa pamamagitan ng Tax Commission noong 1959 by means of Republic Act number 2211. And pag-aaralan daw nila ito para daw gumanda yung tax system o para maging strong yung tax system. Then, ang sistema ng buwis pagkatapos ng digmaan ay hindi pa rin ganun patas at hindi pa rin siya fair sa lahat. Mas mabigat pa rin yung pansanin sa mga mahihirap habang ang mga mayayamang negosyante na nasa Kongreso ay sinusugurong hindi sila magpapataw ng matataas na buwis. Dahil nasa Kongreso sila, kaya nila gawin yon. Kaya nila gawin yung mga bagay na yung sa pagbayad ng tax, kaya nila paliitin lang yung bayad nila kasi nga nasa Kongreso sila. Kasi we know that in Congress, sila yung nag-aano ng batas. Gumagawa ng batas. Then wala silang ginagawang batas which is to have a fair tax system. Then dumami rin yung mga corruption that time. Pagkatapos ng digmaan, dumami rin yung mga corruption. Hindi naman talaga natin maiiwasan yung corruption, especially kahit ngayon nga, 'di ba, na 20th century na tayo, pero grabe pa rin yung corruption, hindi natin na mamamalayan. Kung hindi pa nagbagyo ngayon, hindi natin malalaman na ginakorapot na pala yung flood control. Diba? Issue talaga yan ngayon. Then mula noong 1959 hanggang 1968, walang naipasang bagong batas tungkol sa buwis. Diba? Wala talagang napasa dahil ito sa mga mayayamang nasa Kongreso. Then, dahil maraming negosyante sa Kongreso, hindi nila pinayagan ang pagpataw ng buwis sa mga inaangkat na produkto. Kasi di ba mga negosyante sila. Then, nasa Kongreso sila is ginagawa nila ng paraan para di sila makabayad ng malalaking tax. Yes, sila yung gumagawa ng batas para lang para hindi sila makabayad ng malaking tax is ginaharangan nila yung mga bagong batas which is tungkol sa fair na pagkuha ng tax sa mga tao. Then, karamihan sa mga kita ng gobyerno ay galing pa rin sa indirect taxes. Ano yung indirect taxes? Ang indirect taxes is ito na yung buwis na hindi direktang binabayaran sa gobyerno. Kadalasan binabayaran ito sa mga negosyo, sa mga negosyo na nagbebenta ng produkto o mga service. At sila na yung nagpapadala ng buwis mo sa gobyerno. Katulad nito is yung VAT. Makita natin sa resibo, pag nag-grocery tayo, makita natin yung VAT doon. Then, di natin mamamalayan is bumibili tayo pero may tax yun. Yes, ganun yung indirect taxes. Hindi siya diretso na binabayad sa gobyerno. Kundi bibili tayo ng product, then di natin alam na may tax yun, may binabayaran tayo tax. Then also, omnibus tax law noong 1969 ay hindi pa rin tumaas ang kinita mula sa buwis sa kita kumpara sa buwanang kita ng gobyerno. And also sa Omnibus Tax Law noong 1969, hindi pa rin tumaas ang kinikita mula sa buwis sa kita kumpara sa kabuuang kita ng gobyerno. At dahil yan sa mga korap na nasa Kongreso, dahil yan sa mga negosyanteng nasa Kongreso, dahil sa kanila kaya hindi tumaas yung kita ng gobyerno. Then mahina pa rin yung yung pagkokolekta ng buwis that time sa time nila magsaysay pati kahit dati mahina pa rin, hindi pa siya mahina pa rin yung pagkolekta ng tax, hindi pa siya ganun kalakas, hindi pa siya yung parang strong na batas, hindi pa ganun. Then may problema pa rin sa mga sistema. Yes, kahit sabihin na, di ba, sabi ko kanina is sa time ni Elpidio Quirino is gumanda yung yes, gumanda naman talaga. Pero hindi pa rin ganun parang hindi pa rin ganun kaganda yung sistema natin. May mga problema pa rin talaga. At maraming pera ng gobyerno ang nawawala dahil sa korupsyon. Yes, gabi naman. Then, simula nung kay Manuel Rojas hanggang ngayon, kay Bongbong is gabi pa rin yung corruption. Hindi talaga mawawala yung corruption. Nandyan at nandyan talaga yan. Hindi natin maiwasan. Then, dahil dito, hindi kayang pondohan ng mga gobyerno ang mga proyekto para mapaunlad ng bansa. Then, alam naman natin yung tax is very important para sa mga proyekto sa ating bansa, para mapaganda yung bansa at para mapaganda yung mga buhay ng Filipino. Pero dahil sa mga dahil sa mga negosyanteng nasa kongreso is dahil sa kanila is hindi nagiging fair yung pagbayad ng tax. Then hindi na nga fair yung pagbayad ng tax is kukurakutin pa nila. Imbis na dapat yung tax is para sa pagpaganda ng road, ng tulay, or especially ngayong issue is para sa flood control, hindi na nagagawa, 'di ba? Dahil din yan sa mga kongreso, dahil sa mga corrupt na mga politician, mga contractor, ganyan. Hindi talaga natin maiiwasan ang tawag nito, ang corruption. Nandyan at nandyan talaga yan. Alam mo ba na maraming mga mayayamang negosyante ang kasama rin sa Kongreso? Bakit kaya? Dahil ang mga mayayamang mga negosyante na nasa Kongreso ay hinaharangan nila yung mga patas na batas para sa buwis sapagkat ayaw nilang magbayad ng malaking buwis. At we know na parang pag may negosyo ka, malaki talaga yung babayaran mong buwis. Posibleng hindi pantay ang pagbabayad ng buwis dahil sa mga impluensya ng mga mayayamang negosyante sa gobyerno. Under the Marcos regime, the tax system remained aggressive. From 1981 to 1985, most of the tax money, which is 70%, came from indirect taxes. And the tax system didn't react well to the change in the economy. Taxes increased by about 15% each year. But this didn't bring much money compared to what countries was producing. The tax effort was only 10.7%, which is very low. During naman sa time ni Marcos or during the regime of Marcos, hindi pa rin patas ang sistema ng buwis. Noong mga huling taon ng kanyang pagmumuno, which is 1981 to 1985, mas umaasa pa rin ang gobyerno sa hindi direktang buwis, which is the indirect taxes. Halos 70% ng buwis na nakokolekta ay galing pa rin sa indirect taxes. Hindi rin gaanong tumaas ang kita mula sa buwis. Tumaas lang ito ng 15% kada taon and also it generates low tax yields. Hindi pa rin ganun kalaki yung kita ng gobyerno sa taxes. Then ang tax effort or yung kakayahan ng gobyerno na magkolekta ng buwis ay mababa pa rin. Nasa 10.7% lang, which is very mababa talaga. When Corazon Aquino became the leader of the Philippines after the EDSA revolution, she changed the tax system with something called the 1986 Tax Reform Program. And the goals of this program is to make the tax system react better to the economy, make it fairer by making sure people and companies in similar situation pay the same amount of tax, and help the economy grows by getting rid of the changing taxes that discourage people from working or producing goods. And it also make it easier to manage taxes by making the taxes system simpler and encouraging people to pay their tax. Pagkatapos ng EDSA Revolution, at si Corazon Aquino na ang ating naging presidente, inayos niya ang sistema ng buwis sa pamamagitan ng 1986 Tax Reform Program. Ano yung Tax Reform Program? Ang Tax Reform Program, ito na yung serye ng pagbabago sa mga batas ng buwis ng isang bansa. Naglalayo itong gawing mas simple, mas patas at mas mahusay ang sistema ng buwis. Then, ang layunin din nito ay gawing mas mabilis ang sistema ng buwis at maging patas sa lahat. For example, kung sino man ang may parehong sitwasyon, pareho din yung buwis na kanilang babayaran. And also, tax reform program ay pinapasigla nito at pinapalago ang ekonomiya ng ating bansa sa pamamagitan ng pagtanggal o pagbago ng mga buwis na nakakabawas ng ganang magtrabaho o gumawa ng produkto. And also, ang ano rin ng tax reform program, ang isang layunin nito ay pagbutihin ang pangangasiwa ng buwis sa pamamagitan ng pagpapadali ng sistema ng buwis at ipangikayat ang mga tao na sumunod sa pagbabayad ng buwis. Maganda talaga ang naitutulong ng tax reform program sa atin, especially sa ating bansa. Kasi mas pinaganda nito yung sistema ng pag-collect ng tax, which is nahihikayat dito yung mga tao na magbayad ng tax. Then naging fair na rin siya sa lahat ng tao sa ating bansa. A major reform in the tax system introduced under the term of Aquino was introduction of the value-added tax, which is also known as VAT, and it had the following features. And the first is, instead of having many different taxes for different products and services, the government simplified things by getting a single taxes rates of 10% for most sales, whether the items are domestic or imported. However, if the imports are getting paid from a foreign money, you don't need to pay the 10% taxes. The second feature is, instead of having many different taxes rates for various specific items, such as advanced sales tax and tax on original sales and etc., the government made it simple by implementing a single uniform tax rate of 10% across the board. And the third feature is, if a business makes less than 5,200,000 sales each year, they only have to pay 2% tax on those sales. And next is, the fourth feature is, adoption of the tax credit method of calculating tax by subtracting tax and inputs from the tax on gross sales. And the fifth feature is exemption of all sales of basic commodities such as agriculture and marine food products in their original states, price-regulated petroleum products, and fertilizer. And also, the last but not the least, the sixth feature is additional 20% to tax on non-essential articles such as jewelry, perfume, toilet waters, yacht, and vessels for the pleasures and sports. The VAT law was signed in 1986, and it was put to effort in 1988. While it was reliable sources for revenue for the government, the new taxes laws would reduce the reliability and legislated exemption grew. Noong panahon ni Pangulong Corazon Aquino, may malaking pagbabago sa sistema ng pagbubuwis sa Pilipinas. Ito ay ang pagpapakilala ng VAT o Value Added Tax. Ito ay isang uri ng buwis na ipinapataw sa karamihan ng mga serbisyo na ating nakukuha at mga produkto na ating binibili. Narito ang mga importanteng bagay na nasasakop ng VAT. And the first is, dati iba-iba yung buwis na ating binabayaran sa iba't ibang produkto. Pero sa VAT, ginawa na lang nila na 10%. 10% ng buwis na ating babayaran sa halos lahat ng mga bilihin at serbisyo. Kahit gawa man ito sa Pilipinas o galing sa ibang bansa, 10% ang iyong babayaran na tax. Pero, kung ang produkto ay ibinebenta sa ibang bansa, which is what we called export, is wala kang VAT na babayaran or wala kang 10% na tax na babayaran. Then the second is, dati is maraming iba't ibang uri ng buwis na kailangan bayaran, katulad ng advanced sales tax, tax on original sale at subsequent tax is iba-iba yung binabayaran mo doon. Pero nung may VAT na nung gi-introduce na ang VAT is 10% na lang yung yung ating babayaran sa lahat ng tax na aking nabanggit. At ang 10% na VAT ay pumalit sa halos lahat ng mga buwis na iyon. Kaya mas simple na ang sistema. Dahil sa VAT, hindi na tayo na naguguluhan sa pagbayad ng tax dahil gumawa sila ng uniform tax, which is the 10%. Ang pangatlong katangian naman ng VAT is kung maliit ang negosyo mo at hindi lalagpas sa 5,200,000 pesos ang kita mo sa isang taon, mas maliit ang buwis na iyong babayaran, which is 2% lang. Then, ang pang-apat naman na katangian ng VAT is para malaman mo kung magkano ang VAT na babayaran mo, may paraan para makabawas. For example, ibawas mo ang VAT na binayaran mo noong bumili ka ng mga materyales para sa iyong negosyo mula sa VAT na nasingil mo sa mga customer mo. Ang panglima naman na katangian ng VAT is may mga produkto na hindi kasama sa VAT. Ito naman yung mga pangunahing pagkain tulad ng bigas, gulay, isda at iba pang pagkain na hindi napoproseso. Yung aking nabanggit is pagbibili ka katulad ng bigas, gulay, isda at iba pang pagkain na hindi napoproseso is wala ka nang babayaran na tax. And kasama rin ito yung mga produktong petrolyo na kontrolado ng gobyerno, ang presyo at mga abono para sa mga magsasaka. Kapag yun ang bibiliin mo, wala nang VAT na iyong babayaran. Ang huling katangian ng VAT is kung bibili ka ng mga bagay na hindi naman kailangan tulad ng alahas, mga mamahaling pabango, yate at iba pang mga sasakyang pang-aliw is may dagdag na 20% na tax. Then, ang VAT ay isang malaking pagbabago sa sistema ng buwis. Ginagawa nito yung sistema ng buwis na mas simple pero mas marami ang kailangang magbayad. May mga produkto na hindi kasama sa tax at may dagdag na buwis sa mga luho. Ang layunin ng taang ng VAT is para makalikom ng mas maraming pera ang gobyerno upang magamit sa mga proyekto at serbisyo para sa mga Pilipino. Ang value-added tax ay pinirmahan bilang batas noong 1986 at nagsimulang ipatupad noong 1988. Malaki ang naitulong ng VAT sa gobyerno dahil naging sigurado silang may makukuha silang pera. Pero dumating ang mga panahon na nagkaroon na ng mga bagong batas na nagpapabawas sa VAT dahil mas maraming produkto at serbisyo ang hindi kailangang magbayad ng VAT o yung may mga exemption na. Then, bukod sa pagbabago sa mga batas tungkol sa buwis, binago rin ang paraan ng pagpapatakbo ng mga ahensya ng gobyerno na nangongolekta ng buwis. Katulad ng Department of Finance, binago nila yung sistema nila sa pagkuha ng buwis. At ang Bureau of Internal Revenue, which is the BIR, binago din yung system na yon through the executive order. Binago sila lahat through the executive order 127. Ginawa ito para mas maging maayos ang pagkolekta ng buwis. Yun na nga. That's why binago nila yung sistema sa mga ahensya ng gobyerno upang maayos ang pangolekta ng buwis para maging patas. Then, mas pinaigting ang pangolekta ng buwis at ang pagsusuri sa mga nagbabayad ng buwis. Gumamit sila ng mga computer para mas mabilis ang trabaho at nabawasan din ang mga korupsyon dahil mas malaki na yung tiwala ng mga tao sa BIR dahil doon sa process nila sa pag-collect ng tax is mas malaki na yung tiwala ng mga tao, mga mamamayang Pilipino na magbayad ng tax. Dahil sa mga pagbabagong ito noong panahon ni Aquino, mas dumami ang nakolektang buwis. Mula sa 10% 7 noong 1985, umakyat ito ng 15% noong 1992. Did you know that the value-added tax, which is indirect tax, is widely criticized as a regressive form of taxation? Sa madaling salita, ang regressive form of taxation is unfair. Mas malaki ang bawas na buwis sa kita ng mga mahihirap, kaya mas mahirap para sa kanila kumpara sa mga mayayaman. And did you know that VAT was first imposed under the Philippines taxation system by President Corazon Aquino in July 1987 when she signed the Executive Order 273? And did you know that the VAT was further institutionalized when former President Fidel Ramos signed into the law RA 8424 or the Tax Reform Act of 1997? In the RA 8424, it expanded the coverage of or nasasakupan ng VAT. Meaning to say, mas lumawak yung nasasakupan ng VAT. And it includes the basic necessities such as rice, corn, dried and canned fish, fresh pork, beef, and poultry meat. And also the fresh egg, fresh vegetable, root crops, coffee, sugar, cooking oil, salt, laundry soap, detergent, firewood, charcoals, candy, and drugs that are classified as essential by Department of Health. Yun yung inad nila na nasakop ng VAT. Dati is yung rice, yung mga ganyan is hindi pa siya totally nasasakop ng VAT because importante siya. Meaning to say, basic necessities. Everyday life natin kailangan yun. Pero nung naging design na ni Fidel Ramos ang RA 8424 which is the Tax Reform Act of 1997, mas lumawak na yung nasasakupan ng VAT, including na yung mga basic necessities.
Along with the tax reform came the administrative reforms such as restructuring of Department of Finance and its attached agency, the BIR or the Bureau of Internal Revenue, to the Executive Order 127, the tax collection and the tax audits were intensified. So, what do we mean by tax reform? Tax reform is a process of changing the taxes that are collected or managed by the government, and it usually undertaken to improve administration or to provide economic and social benefits. So, tax reform can include reducing the level of taxation of all people by the government, making the tax system more progressive or less progressive, or simplifying the tax system and making the system more understandable and more accountable. Why do we need tax reform? Without the tax reform, the poor will likely remain poor because there will be little or less significant investment in infrastructure, education, and health. Many people say we do not need tax reform because the economy are doing well. And I would say they are true if they only want business as usual. But we don't want or we don't mean business as usual. We want a radical change in the way we live and to impart our children or grandchildren in the future or for the better future than what we experience today. We need to do tax reform not only for ourselves but for the better future of our country that we so love. So, ano nga ba ang mangyayari sa atin pag walang tax reform? We will have less budget for rural infrastructure such as badly needed, from farm to market, irrigations. Without the tax reform, the urban congestion will remain a major challenge. There will be a little improvement in our public transportation. Also, without the tax reform, poor quality education will pervade. In our previous administration, they passed a very important reform, which is the K-12 program. Also, our healthcare will escape the poor when they get sick. The poor will sell their assets so they can afford medical care, not knowing after they get better, their asset is gone. Instead, nai-use na lang nila yun to improve their livelihood. So, after the collection and tax audits were intensified, the Bureau of Internal Revenue or the BIR through the Executive Order 127, the tax collection and tax audits were intensified. So first is computerization was introduced and corruption was relatively reduced. So this refers that integration and computer system and technology in the BIR operations. So computerization has a big impact in the tax in collecting the tax reform, using softwares to record and store and retrieve financial data accurately and quickly. It simplifies accounting, automates tasks, and helps with tax filing. Computerization improves data management that speeds up tax return processing. It enhances the tracking of payments and reduces errors. So, BIR digitalization efforts has significantly impacted tax payments and filings, saving thousands of trees yearly. After the computerization was introduced and corruption was relatively reduced, which improved the trust of the people in the BIR, it leads to greater voluntary compliance with tax law. When people believe that the tax system is fair and transparent, when they are paying their taxes, they are more willingly to pay their tax regularly and monthly. So, if alam ng mga tao na transparent or fair yung pag-pay nila ng tax and alam nila na mas napupunta ito sa magandang plan ng government, is mas willing sila mag-pay. As the result of tax reform of the Aquino administration during the time in 1985 to 1992, intensified tax collection were audits. So as President Corazon Aquino took over, she made a major reform program on tax structure. So as we all familiar in the VAT or the value-added tax, this is to make sure that there is equality of tax payments, promote growth and tax compliance. So the value-added tax law was signed in 1986 and put effect in 1988. So during this time, the tax collection and audit were intensified, and computerization was introduced, and corruption was reduced. So as I said earlier, during that time is computerization was introduced into the BIR. So mas nag-use sila ng computerization data or computerized data para mas secured and mas track nila yung data through computer. So also the effect of it is mas nag-improve kasi mas na-improve yung trust ng mga taxpayer or people kasi alam nila na mas track yung pag-pay nila ng payment or ng kanilang tax sa government. So, as the result of this, the increased tax revenue increased from 10.7% in 1985 to 15.4% to 1992. What do we mean by tax revenue? Tax revenue is the income that governments obtain through taxation. It is a crucial source of funding that government needs. It is a big help to the government to finance public services such as infrastructures, projects, and other essential functions that we need in our economy. Greater political stability during the administration of President Fidel V. Ramos in 1992 to 1998 is allowed for continued economic growth or the political stability. This ventured into its own tax reform program in 1997 through the comprehensive tax reform programs, which the following objectives. First is tax broad-based simple with reasonable tax rates. This means dapat mas maraming sakop or mas broader base, but hindi masyadong mataas or hindi rin masyadong mababa. Just enough so that people can pay without feeling too burdened. Next is maximize tax avoidance by addressing flaws and loopholes. This means using legal ways para iwasan ng pagbayad ng tamang buwis, and the goal is to plug these holes so everyone can pay their fair share. Third one is encourage payments by adjusting tax exemptions. It means itaas ang level ng exemptions para mas maraming hindi mabuwisan. Lower tax rates is ibaba ang pinakamataas na tax rates para hindi mabigat sa mga taxpayers. So, to simplify the procedure, gawing mas madali ang pagbabayad ng buwis ng mga taxpayers during the term of Fidel B. Ramos in 1992 to 1998. Rationalize the grant of tax incentives, which was estimated to be worth 531.7 billion pesos in 1994. So, these are the special benefits given to certain industries or businesses to encourage investment. So, mas pinag-aralang mabuti kung sino nga ba talaga ang dapat bigyan ng incentives to make sure these incentives are effective and not abused. In year 1994, these incentives were given were worth a huge amount of money. So, it's important to make sure that they are worth it. The next one is broadening the VAT base in 1997. So, what is VAT base? So, VAT base is tumutukoy ito sa kabuuang halaga ng mga produkto at serbisyo na maaaring patawan ng buwis sa loob ng isang system ng value-added tax. So, ito yung foundation kung saan kinakalculate at kinokolekta ang VAT. In Republic Act 7716, the VAT base was broadened in 1997. To include services through the RA 7716, mas pinalawak yung value-added tax or the VAT. So, para isama ang mga services dahil sa Republic Act 7716, may mga importanteng changes sa VAT law noon. So, the features of improved VAT law as it follows. First is restore the VAT exemptions for all cooperatives in agricultural, electric, credit, or multi-purpose. Provided share capital of each member does not exceed in 515,000. So, the VAT exemptions for cooperative is binalik yung VAT exemptions para sa lahat ng agricultural, electric, credit, multi-purpose, at iba pa. Pero, may condition. Ang bawat share ng kapital ng bawat member is hindi dapat lalagpas sa 515,000 pesos. So, kung pasok sila dito, hindi na sila magbabayad ng VAT. So, next is the expanded coverage or the simple process. So, this includes broiling and roasting, effectively narrowing for base like food products. Dito, mas pinalawak yung simple process. This includes broiling, roasting, and yung mga effect nito is, ibig sabihin, mas maraming food products ang hindi na taxable or hindi na magbabayad ng VAT base. Educational services provided by private schools or educational institutions that are accredited of Commission on Higher Education are also exempted from the value-added tax as long as educational services ang service nila. The next one is house and lot and other residential dwellings valued at 51 million and below subject using Consumer Price Index or the CPI. So, kung ang value ng residential dwellings is 1 million pesos pababa, exempted na rin sila sa value-added tax. Pwede pa itong i-adjust depende sa CPI or the Consumer Price Index. Also, the lease of residential units, kung ang monthly rental nila is hindi lalagpas ng 8,000 pesos, is exempted na rin sila sa value-added tax. Pwede rin itong i-adjust gamit ang CPI. So, in summary, the value-added tax in 1997 through the Republic Act 7716, nagkaroon ng mga pagbabago or changes para mas maging fair at simple ang sistema ng pagbubuwis. So, may mga binigyan din ng exemptions, pinalawak ang definitions, Do you know that the term of President Joseph Estrada in 1998 to 2001 was a brief term? Estrada's term was too short to implement a significant changes in the tax system. And then, Vice President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo has swept through another EDSA revolution. After Vice President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo assumed the presidency because of the EDSA revolution, so nagkaroon ng changes sa government spending at tax collection. So the first one is increased government spending. So Arroyo's administration increased government spending, leading to large deficits from 2002 to 2004. So as president, ginastusan ni Arroyo ang government ng malaki, pero hindi naman ginalaw ang tax collection. So as result, malaking deficit from 2002 to 2004. So, it means mas malaki ang gastos ng government kaysa sa kinikita nito. So, the government needs for more revenue. Because of the deficit, mas kailangan ng government na maghanap ng dagdag na pera. Kaya in 2005, pinirmahan ang Expanded Value Added Tax or the EVAT as Republic Act 9337. Increased VAT rate. So, in February 2006, the VAT tax rate was increased from 10% to 12%. So, it means na mas malaki na ang value-added tax na binabayaran ng mga consumers. So, in summary, during Arroyo's time, dahil sa mas malaking gastos ng government at walang dagdag na tax collection, nagkaroon ng deficit. Para punan yun, pinatupad ang EVAT o ang Expanded Value-Added Tax na pinalawak na coverage ng Value-Added Tax or the VAT. At mas pinataas ang tax rate. So, ang goal nito is madagdagan ang kita ng government. So, during the term of President Benigno Aquino III in 2010 to 2016 is he promised that wala siyang bagong taxes na ipapataw or no new taxes promised. So, ang plano niya lang is magdagdag ng revenue galing sa pag-adjust ng existing taxes. Sin tax reform. So, the administration of President Benigno Aquino III adjusted excise taxes on liquor and cigarettes through the Sin Tax Reform Republic Act 10351. So, his administration venture na silang mag-adjust ng excise tax on liquor and cigarettes. Tinawag itong the Sin Tax Form. So, ang mga rason daw kung bakit ito ginawa is first, the fiscal. So, para madagdagan ang kita ng government. The second one is the public health. Para mabawasan ang paggamit at alak, sigarilyo na nakakasama sa kalusugan ng bawat Pilipino. The third one is the social order related inconsiderations. So, may kinalaman din sa peace and order dahil ang pag-inom at paninigarilyo is linked sa mga issues. So, the Republic Act 10351, after ito ipinasa, is tumaas ang government revenues galing sa alcohol at tobacco excise. Result of Sin Tax Reform, it increased the revenue. The collections from tobacco and alcohol from year 2015 ay umabot ng 1.1% ng gross domestic product. So, the credit rating upgrade. Dahil sa pagbuti ng tax collection, ay nakatanggap ang Pilipinas ng credit rating update nito into investment grade status. So, it means mas nagtiwala ang investors sa Pilipinas. Next one is the impact on social services. So, ang Sin Tax Reform ay mas naging magandang halimbawa kung paano makatutulong ang tax reform sa social services. For example, increase in Department of Health budget. Mas na doble o na triple in year 2015 ang budget ng Department of Health. And increase free health. Free health insurance. Mas tumaas ang bilang ng mahirap na nakakatanggap ng health services through the insurance premiums of PhilHealth. Mula 5.2 million from 2012 ay umabot ito ng 15.4 million in year 2015. In summary, President Aquino's term on 2010 to 2016 is imbis na magpataw siya ng bagong tax, ay ginalaw niya yung excise tax sa liquor at cigarettes through the Sin Tax Reform. So as a result, mas dumami ang kita ng Pilipinas na nakaka-help sa pagpapabuti ng social services tulad ng health. Last is the term of President Rodrigo Duterte in 2016 to 2022. So, after umupo ni President Duterte, isa sa mga pangako niya ay baguhin ang sistema ng buwis in the country. Lalo na yung income tax. So, ang goal is pababain ang income tax rates na binabayaran ng mga working Filipinos. Tax reform promise as Duterte administration, he promised that tax reform will particularly in income taxes to lower the income tax rates shouldered by working Filipinos. So, bakit nga ba kailangan ang tax reform? Do you know that the present income tax scheme of the country is the second highest in Southeast Asia? Ang income tax rate ng Philippines ay pumapangalawa sa pinakamataas sa Southeast Asia. So, as a result, sobrang bigat nito sa ordinaryong empleyado sa Pilipinas. Outdated income tax law. The existing income tax law were outdated. So, yung mga batas natin tungkol sa income tax ay ginawa pa 20 years ago. So, basically, hindi na ito updated sa current times during the term of President Duterte. So, anong plano natin sa tax reform? So, first is bawasan ng income tax. Ito yung main goal para malaki ang take-home pay ng mga manggagawa like ordinary Filipino workers or yung mga minimum wage earner. So, next is limitahan ang value-added tax exemptions. Gusto nilang bawasan yung mga products or services na hindi na nagbabayad ng value-added tax. Next is taasan ang tax. Balak nilang taasan ang buwis sa mga produktong petrolyo like gasolina, diesel ng mga sasakyan. So, the goal is reform in country's tax policy will result in much desired economic development. That it will be felt by the lowest classes in the society. So, this tax policy will result sa paglago ng ekonomiya at mararamdaman ito ng mas mahihirap, lalo na yung sa mga pinaka-lower class na part ng bansa. So, it means na mas maraming trabaho at mas tataas ang sahod at mas magandang buhay na para sa lahat. So, in term of the President Duterte administration, gusto niyang gawing mas fair ang sistema ng buwis para sa lahat ng mga Pilipino. So, para mas guminhawa ang buhay ng lahat.
Meron ba kayong natutunan sa aming tinalakay? Kung gayon pa man, hanggang dito na lamang ang aming presentasyon.
Maraming salamat sa inyo sa pakikinig sa amin. Sana marami kayong natutunan sa aming presentasyon. At sana magamit ito sa pag-unawa sa ating nakaraan. At sa huli, maraming salamat po.